Candace Owens and many others have made videos about the USS Liberty. The titles are super dramatic. The day Israel attacked America. God saved us from God's chosen people. The USS Liberty was cold-blooded murder. That's why I also choose a bombastic title. The only difference is my title is actually true. On the surface, it sounds like a very big story. That's even how Candace opened her video.
All right, you guys, I'll get right into this. A couple of weeks ago, I received a letter that changed my life, certainly changed the course of my life in politics.
So what's in this story that makes a veteran political commentator like Candace Owens want to change her path in politics? What's the USS Liberty story? Why is everyone suddenly talking about it? And what is the main thing that Candace and her friends failed to mention? The Liberty was an American intelligence ship that was mistakenly attacked by the Israeli Air Force and Navy on June 8, 1967. 34 American soldiers were tragically killed in the incident. Within hours, it was clear that it was an accident and Israel took responsibility. But before we dive into the details, let's talk about the most important point. June 8, 1967 was not just any day, it was the height of the Six-Day War. Israel was fighting for its survival against Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. The entire army was on edge. A day before Israel accidentally bombed the Liberty, the Israeli Air Force mistakenly bombed Israeli ground troops in Jerusalem, and one soldier was killed. In every Israeli war, 1956, 67, 73, 82, and even today, the Israeli military has accidentally killed its own soldiers and hostages. You might think, well, if Israel keeps killing its own soldiers, then something is wrong with their army. But that's only because you don't understand how war works. The same year, on the other side of the world, there was another war going on, the Vietnam War. Do you know how many American soldiers were killed by friendly fire? Between 8 to 12,000. And how many South Vietnamese were accidentally killed by American forces? Tens of thousands. And this happened in every war. In the Gulf Wars, American forces accidentally killed many of their own, and even dozens of British soldiers. That's the nature of war. I served in tanks. They are killing machines. That's why the military runs on orders and training, because these are deadly tools. When you've got infantry, tanks, air force, and special forces operating in the same battlefield, accidents happen. It is sad, it is tragic, but it happens in every army and every war. And that's the Liberty story, an accident. In her video, Candace interviews a soldier who was on board. I have no criticism of him. He went through hell. His friends were killed. He has every right in the world to be angry at Israel. I'm not judging him. And here is something that may sound strange to people unfamiliar with war or history. Trauma distorts memory. When you ask soldiers who fought in the same battle what happened, they often give different versions. Not because they are lying, but because the brain under extreme stress tries to process and make sense of too much, too fast. And each brain does that a little differently. All my criticism is directed at Candace, not the soldier. Candace Owens promotes a theory that Israel did it intentionally, and that this was part of some Israeli-American conspiracy. But the theory has some huge holes. One thing she fails to mention is that on June 4th, just before the war started, the US officially declared it had no forces in the region. Yes, one Israeli recon flight did identify the ship as American, but hours later, that identification was dropped. The different Israeli units simply weren't aware of the American ship. As for the American flag, the pilots said they didn't see it. These were fighter jets, flying fast and unable to get too close, fearing it was an enemy vessel. Another thing Candace didn't mention, the Liberty resembled an Egyptian ship named El Qusayr, which had just bombarded Israeli forces a few hours earlier. There are even more technical details. The Liberty was moving at 5 knots, but the Israeli Navy mistakenly identified it as traveling at 20 knots, a speed typically of warships. When Israeli Navy ships approached to verify, there was gunfire from the Liberty, and only then did the Israelis fire a torpedo. But the biggest hole in Candace's conspiracy theory is this: why would Israel, fighting for its life, intentionally attack its closest ally? And if this were some US Israel conspiracy, when exactly would they have planned it? In the weeks leading up to the war, Israel feared a long, possibly losing war. You think while preparing for a war of survival, the Israeli military had time to plan an attack on an American ship? It doesn't make any sense for many reasons. And simply the motive is missing. After the torpedo incident, the Israeli Navy realized their mistake and offered help. If the Liberty had known something Israel wanted to hide, they could have just sunk the ship. But they didn't. They didn't hide it. It quickly became clear it was a mistake, and Israel immediately admitted it and offered assistance, which the American crew refused. Sure, you can dive into every little detail, and military historians should. It is important to study these incidents in order to learn and avoid them in the future. But Candace Owens clearly doesn't care about the details. She doesn't care about the Liberty either, just like she doesn't care about other US military accidents. She's not making a documentary about thousands of friendly fire deaths in US wars. She's using this incident to attack Israel and the Jews, God chosen people as it is written on the thumbnail. She talks in the video about the Kennedy assassination, the Jewish lobby, and President Lyndon Johnson. Also, Candace and her crowds claim the Liberty story was silenced. Really? There are more videos and views on the Liberty than any other friendly fire incidents. The only difference? In this one, they can blame Israel and the Jews. That's why Candace made this video. The Liberty didn't change her worldview, it just continued her anti Israel narrative. I recently watched an interview where Matt Walsh told Tucker Carlson he just doesn't really care about the Israeli Arab conflict. And I respect that. I've guided many Americans who tell me how amazing it is that they can walk safely in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv at night, unlike in their own city centers. And honestly, if you can't walk safely in your own neighborhood, why would you care about the other side of the world? That's a totally legitimate view. But Candace is trying to make Americans hate Israel in a dishonest and manipulating way. And maybe if the only dirt Candace and her friends can dig up on Israel is one tragic accident from 60 years ago, maybe that actually says something about how strong the US Israel alliance really is. An alliance not based on secret interests, but on shared values, Judeo Christian values, democracy, and free speech. Candace is a proud American and a devout Christian. If she parachuted into the Middle East, she would pray to land in Israel, not in an Arab country. In many Arab states, they burn American flags. They don't just hate Trump, they hate everything America stands for. And in almost all Muslim countries, Christians are persecuted. The real genocide in the Middle East is happening against Christians. It is just wild that Candace attacks Israel more than she talks about Christian persecution in the Muslim world. Candace doesn't understand much about military history. And if she wants to dive into history in general, maybe she should talk about a huge Jewish contribution to the Black civil rights movement in the 1960s. For some reason, both the American right and left forget that Jews were the most supportive group of Black equality struggles. Candace could even do that with her bestie, Kenya West. I want to thank all my supporters. I'm not delusional. I know I don't really stand a chance against Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson. They are 100 times bigger than me, and they are Americans who know how to speak to their crowds. I'm just an Israeli with a thick accent and iPhone 11 Pro. iPhone 11 Pro. Pro. iPhone 11 Pro. And no, Candace, I'm not a Mossad agent. Mossad isn't paying me, neither is AIPAC, and I swear I didn't kill Kennedy. Or did I? I think it is important that my video is watched and that it tells the simple truth. The Liberty incident was a tragic mistake. And Israel and America are allies not because of shady interests, but because of shared values. Please subscribe and share this video. And I can only do this thanks to your support. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. See you next week. Yalla bye.